No. Okay, so I usually don't need a microphone because I'm very loud and I can project my voice, but I'm being told that for Zoom, we have to use the microphone. So you can hear us okay, right? I see a lot of heads nodding. Just don't be shy. This is going to be an interactive workshop, so get ready to be answering and doing stuff. So I'm going to pass the microphone for introductions, but I'm Gabby Franca, one of the housemates at my house. Going to leave it there.
I'm Michelle Nichols. I'm one of the general internists.
And Greg Minsky, one of the hospitals at the university.
So the whole idea of doing this workshop, a lot of you may feel like I don't need this, and that's fine. But we have found, as we're all working in faculty development with our divisions and trying to help people to prepare the promotion packets and going through it. And we always find that people start freaking out around scholarship. And do I have enough scholarship? How many papers do I need? So we thought that maybe this was a big theme for a lot of people that are going to go through promotion, whether you're going from assistant to associate or from associate to full professor. I think this will be helpful. I'm in the school promotions committee, so after it goes through the department. So I have seen a lot of portfolios that are very successful and they're non-traditional. So that's what we're going to bring up to put some people at ease. If you were worried about it, if you were not worried about it, we want to make sure you get worried about it. So by the end of the hour, you're not going to be worried about it anymore. So let's call some inks and then let's take it away. So you all feel great at the end of the day. So can we see a show of hands and see how many of you are assistant professors? Associate? Full? Okay, so I have two people that don't care about being here. But they're going to be awesome mentors for the rest of you that are here. So we really appreciate that you're here. Okay, yeah. Let's move forward. So how many papers or publications do you think you need to get promoted? No idea, no thought. Huh? Yeah, depending on the track. But even no matter what track you are, there's not a set number, right? Like the school guidelines don't say that you need at least 7 if you're going to go to associate, or at least, or that there needs to be this many peer review publications. I mean, you need scholarship and you need products of scholarship. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need this number of peer review publications. So it will all depend, of course, if you're going to go through promotion in the clinical pathway or under the regular series. If you're going under the clinical series, that still doesn't mean that you don't need any scholarship at all. Because in order to prove that you are an excellent clinician, sometimes sending clinical vignettes abstracts in a way shows you or shows people that you are an amazing clinician because you're sharing your knowledge with other people. So even when you're in a clinical pathway, doesn't mean you're going to have 0 scholarship, right? Oh, yay. So what are our goals and objectives today? So we're going to explore some of the requirements for the academic promotion, define and understand non-traditional forms of scholarship, and then we're going to try to help you set up some goals for, like some annual goals so you can actually reach and be very comfortable when you go through the pathway. The interesting thing is that it doesn't matter if you go to associate or to full professor, your requirements or the matrix is exactly the same. So sometimes we get like people that are going to associate that they're very accomplished, but they still say, oh, I need to be excellent on everything. I'm like, actually, you don't. And if you're already excellent in everything, then why are you going to full professor? So it's okay to say, you know what? I only need to be excellent in one. Let's tone it down a little and just build the rest to be excellent for full professor. But the matrix is exactly the same to associate or to full professor. So if you look at the matrix and start checking boxes and you feel that you checked all of the boxes, you're in a good place. But so what we're going to do is like a quick introduction, then we're going to do some breakdown, group debrief, and some take-home points. And then we're going to do some goal setting. So this is some myth that you may have heard. I'm going to add one more myth that is not there. But one is that you need a certain number of peer review publications to get promoted. That is a myth. You need scholarship, yes. But nothing in the promotion guidelines says that you need 7 peer-reviewed publications to go to associate. No, that's not the case. So take a deep breath, relax, and let's move forward. So sometimes you see people that are very, very successful. And they're like, well, but they always get everything right. I'm like, no. For each success that you have, you fail like 10 times. You just don't advertise your failures. But I just had the 5th rejection for a manuscript this week for the same manuscript. It's going to get published eventually. But all you're going to hear about is that it's published, but not the many times I submitted and it didn't get accepted. There's a lot of help available that you may or may not know. So the school has a lot of faculty development workshops that go year round, but also within our divisions and the department, there's a lot of help. And I'm not going to say that people are self-absorbed, but people are busy. So no matter how much people want to help you and build your portfolio, unless you say, I need help, sometimes they're not going to notice you need help. So the first step is like, can you please help me out with this? And I assure you that 99.9% of the people you work with will be happy to help. And academic success is a straight line. Now, I can tell a little story, but I did internal medicine in Argentina, then I did ER in Argentina, then I came here, then I did 2 years of ER, then I went back to internal medicine, then I applied for a combined fellowship in ID and critical care, then I changed my mind. Actually, I found out I was getting the board, so I kind of changed my mind and decided. So, there's a lot of different ways to get where you are, and they're all valid. There's another myth that we don't have here, and that's that you need a niche. I am not going to say that you don't need a niche. That being said, we are generalists, so having one niche sometimes is very hard to achieve. So usually my recommendation is do whatever you're passionate about and makes you happy. And then whenever you sit down to write your promotion, you'll meet with any of us and we'll help you write it down to make it look like you have an awesome niche. But just do something that makes you happy. If you have a niche, great. If you don't, please don't stress about it. A lot of people leave the midterm saying, oh my God, they told me I need a niche, not to do what I want, but I don't want to do that anymore. Just do whatever makes you happy. And then we'll help you frame it in a way that it will look that you always have the same niche. So you do a lot more job than probably you give yourself credit for. So let's make it count and put it on paper. As we said, success comes at the expense of failure. So in order to, as we said, get one publication, you're going to have a lot of rejections before that. It's not personal. And sometimes doesn't mean that the article is not good enough. Mine articles are always awesome. So if they're rejected in 10 journals, it's their fault, not mine. No. That means that sometimes they know what they're looking for. So you need to keep looking to the right audience or the right time, or just make all the changes in the manuscript that are necessary, because sometimes we all think that what we're doing is awesome and feedback is great, and then you can change it around and make it better. There's another one that your success is proportional to your tolerance to failure. I was like, yes, if you won a position and you didn't get it, apply again next time. And promotion is not the end game, right? You like doing medicine is a lifestyle, so just make it work for you and your family and your lifestyle. It's not doing things to get promoted is not right. Okay. All right. We didn't decide who was going to say what. So we're flexible, and that's what we want you to be, is flexible. And I think I'm going to actually, I don't know how to go back. But just to add on to what Gabby said, we don't want you, and Mark doesn't want you, and Marisha doesn't want you to work to get promoted. We want you to work to do your work and do what you're passionate about and do what you like, and then we will help that get promoted. And that's really sort of the message that we want to take is, yes, you do need to do some scholarship, but you need to do your work and what you like, and if it's education, if it's clinical, whatever it is, there's a very broad, sort of a broad definition of scholarship, and we can make that, you can make that scholarly. And so that's what you should be striving for, is to do the work that you enjoy. So we're lucky here.
because CU actually has a pretty broad definition of scholarship and sort of allow a lot of things under that umbrella of scholarship. It doesn't have to be just peer-reviewed journal articles. There's a lot that falls into it. They separate scholarship into these categories: scholarship of discovery, scholarship of application, scholarship of integration, and scholarship of teaching and education. And so the discovery is more of your traditional peer-reviewed, anything that's going through your IRB is your scholarship of discovery. And that's great, and that's very necessary if you're a researcher, but there's a lot in the application, integration, and education that is the reason why most of us are here. And that's where our scholarship is going to fall. And that's great, that's fine, and you can get promoted with that. Oh no. Oh no. Oh boy. Okay, there we go. So clearly there's not a promotion for technology. I would not get there. So we're going to do some breakout sessions. From what I can tell, it looks like we mostly have like clinician educators in the room. Do we have anyone who's like a full-up researcher? Excellent. So we're going to break into some groups and talk about the different types of scholarship. I think what we'll do is we'll get rid of, we won't do the scholarship of discovery. Everyone knows if you can get 7 New England Journal articles, you're great and you're going to get promoted, but that's not what we're striving for. So we're going to break into groups, one that's going to be application and integration, and one that's going to be education. So why don't we do application and integration over there, education kind of over here in the middle. So separate into 2 groups. I'm going to give you some handouts with the matrices for those. And we're going to kind of talk amongst the group and look at the different matrices and see all the different things that qualify and talk about what you're doing in your day in, day out job that's going to fall into those categories.
So it's not going to be things that you don't do. Scholarship of discovery, because a lot of people have peer review and you're going to do some studies that are unfunded. The still falls under scholarship of discovery, but it's more self-explanatory. That's why we're leaving that out. It's not that we think you don't do it. So even if you have an R1, you're going to be discovered. But even if you have 0 funding, but you're actually collecting data and publishing peer review, that's still scholarship of discovery. But because that's the more traditional one, we're going to leave it out unless some of you say, I still want to discuss that. We're all good with discussing the more non-traditional ones? Good. Sorry, I just want to make sure that even like JJAM, like all of those will fall under discovery, but you're all familiar with that. That's what we all thought that scholarship was.
All right, so let's everyone stand up. Application and integration, education. Yeah.
The whole idea is look at the matrix and think of what, like, give ideas. What you think that will fit that box.
Like we had some promoted to full professional with on the side. So it's like,
No.
In the context of I did the curriculum, and you did it. But, I mean, it's, you don't think of it as you're doing it that way. You think of it as this is what the resident needs, what I will do. But when it comes time for promotion, you want to think of it differently, and you want to think, you know, hey, I actually created something. That's it's tangible, it's in the binder, and you could sort of summarize it and say, what it was achieved.
What do you got?
Yeah.
How much does,
They will have to actually create thought that we gave learning objectives. That it really needs to look like you could show they don't want
those aren't strategic designs of the curriculum, they're just one-off presentations that you get over the years. Those not count.
Yeah, and me too. And so you may not learn this, right? You may not be sports medicine curriculum, but you're a generalist. So you have a primary care curriculum, right? Which means it's going to be a little hyper. We do. Huge little all over the place. Why do what we do? But that's okay. It just depends on how you do it. Allocation that I year or residents. Yeah, they don't want to see every slide.
Sure.
This body of educational work. That's the primary care outpatient.
Yeah, so what they really want is you to keep track of all the educational. So we used to have 3 questions. So my beginning partner and I, we just trade off. So we got the title there. How that works in the browse. Keep track of all the responses. And then model which skills to get their rounds and that. All right. Friday morning, you how would you, I mean, all of the people how would you teaching those how would you tell that?
I would probably say that falls under improvement or expansion of an existing course or curriculum, right? That course. So I put it in the matrix, I put it under that. Improvement or transformation course. And then in your narrative, every Friday morning or one Friday a month or whatever. Five residents or 10 residents per week, and X number of years, topics include such as that accessibility.
Better
Not necessarily. I mean, I think if you're sort of there and participating, I don't know how exactly it's set up, but then sort of
all sort of write it claiming a share of that position. So, you can use the word we, you have to use the word I and there a fair amount. That you describe that as a curricular component. You could say, you would describe kind of the need that you're addressing, why you want to do it, and then the elements of it. But it was something that was created. You were involved in creating it. Something that was involved in creating it. You want to come. I'm a little confused. Are we talking about education there, or are we talking about a scholarship?
Right, and that's the thing with promotion. So the things are going to go in multiple sections, right? Because then whatever you produce, the educational material is your scholarship. You're both an educator and a scholarship. But the things that you're listing in your education portfolio, there's all the times that I talk to residents, here's all the things that I did. There should be a scholarly content from that. Here's the educational curricular material that I created as my role. So in your promotion package,
What was your style of product?
Well, I mean, I had
Not that when you were doing the morning conference, the residents.
no, I just listed all of all the topics that we talked about. You can see that we did that.
There wasn't like a PowerPoint or a handout or something.
So I would say something like, you can think of how you people want to say, hey, I developed a thermal map, and what I did was I actually stopped my peers, so I have thermal map articles and then people analyze them. So the creative process of developing that thermal map and the topics, that could be a part of the course. I divided it, but I was horrible. I'm just saying updated one. I'm like, yeah, you can write it one out everywhere. Okay, this is where you will take it and then you can talk about an extra mile for the extra steps or skills that you can have. But you actually took all the work you can actually divide it. That's why. This is how it's being used. That's what people are having to do working for us. Sort of level of and we think that it has the knowledge of the code. In a way that even if you didn't go to the next step and because that means that you want to have a shirt, you want to have a shirt, you can always write before. It's okay. And now they say, hey, I want to publish this. This is one of the work. And I want to put your editor and say, sure, I can publish. And then you can edit, but it will get published. So there's another way that you can go the extra mile, but you don't necessarily have to.
The evaluation count and scholarship is also right. I mean, if you get the evaluation from your class or whatever,
It proves the impact.
Yeah. So what I encourage people to make a couple observations. One is like when I went up for associate professor and when Dave went, the criteria were a little different and the promotions committee looked at it differently. The way I think of it now is what ends up happening is most people don't think about their teaching until they come up for promotion in terms of the packaging as a scholarship, and then we're sort of retroactively doing it. But as you prepare it, think about it. Basically the structure of the scholarship is like a paper. So factor, why are you doing what you're doing? So there's an educational need from your method. So what did you actually do? And then your results. So, and I think to Elena's point, keeping the evaluation. So even if it's just really basic stuff, student satisfaction, things like that, but you want to keep tabs on the numbers of students that you did, how many years you did it, and have those elements. And if you think about that ahead of time while you're planning it or while you're doing it, it just raises your levels. I mean, you're still going to do the same thing, right? You're going to precept students in clinic. You're going to have your pre-clinic conference and all that. But frame it in those terms as you're thinking about it, and then you're going to have to present it that way when you present it to the committee. And the more you can have in terms of results, the more that's going to be is going to hold up for scholarships.
Impact was successful. You can always not or an abstract and just share what you do with your work and that helps the presentation. Like, it doesn't have to be a hard. You can, like, you know, we got experience with those and how much share with, and we're a colleague from the country. So that's what any conference would offer. And then that's the presentation. So there's ways to increase the amount of material we provide. So wouldn't add it on extra content.
We should be doing a lot more posters because the you know, the bar for a poster is much lower than a paper. You know, literally structure your education stuff a little bit ahead of time. It's pretty easy to 20 minutes convert into a poster. It's not a lot.
And the simple you said, I'm not advertising at 3 a.m. I'm kind of, but like at 3 a.m., like yours, I'm not going to go too down to what it is yet, because what I was going for is like if you're supposed to get perspective, there's something the abstract will be published through JGIM. So it's one of the problems with JGIM, so in a way, you can just do abstract selection.
And they're peer reviewed, so they're competitively peer reviewed. And, you know, an abstract counts less than a publication, but it definitely is a confidence in this scholarship.
Yeah, you can like put publications of like peer review, and you can peer review abstract. You can put like peer review scientific manuscript, peer review abstract, and that counts. So you also need like ACP, for example, doesn't talk about by the consumer and medicine, so that's something else to think about. And when you're doing something that is cool, communication, they have to have school, they would get communication, the execution, and the impact by disseminating.
That's what you want to describe. That's the big thing. No one on the promotion committee can sort of argue that this is scholarly work. And that if we can describe this, this is unique. Benefit from and that is that's what school medicine wants you to do. Like this is what we want educators, this is what we want to promote. So it is keeping track of, we need to write down the names of all the different students that you work with as they come through. It's hard. It's tough approach. You're like, oh man. 5 years ago. So write down the name. How do they scholarly product. So you want to keep track of those things because it's like Mark said, it's hard when it's promotion. Well, I never coordinator gives me a student. Or 5 a year. Feels like 1,000 a year, you know. So you want to keep track as you're going through it.
I added little sections in my CV where I had mentees. So every month or two, I would kind of go in and update it. And be generous in terms of what you credit yourself for mentoring. So if you're precepting a student, you're there for a month, and that student comes to you over lunch and says, "Hey, how did you decide you went into your career?" Or, you know, and seeks that, that's mentorship, and you should put that student on there and say, because we don't have a formal requirement. I mean, they don't have to label you a mentor.
Along those lines, if you have a meeting or resolution, following you with sort of make sure you keep that in mind and maybe 5 years before you go, but keep up with that stuff for 5 years. Access or an informal letter of recommendation, but having a few extra where students can say, my former semester, I never had my whole medical curriculum. Because of her, I went into internal medicine. Because of her, I stayed academic. They get a project, I get credit for the mentorship, their scholarly project, that's
also like Elena, right? The UI process, right? For posters and presentations, right? So this is like tons of mentorship that is on your, going to be on your project, and you can be structured about it. What I used to do, I don't do that much clinical time anymore, but every time I have like social teaching, at the hospice, I would tell everyone at the end of the week from around right to our proposal. Choose an explanation, by the way, there's no such a thing as you have to do this. If you do finding that you can describe how to so, like, we're taking through like more of this, we're getting, I don't know, 15 per year. If you're consistent and you have like instructions, this is part of what we're going to do, I'm going to help you do it. I'm going to go in your speech and go on. So, just okay, now let's do this one last time. I'm like, okay, let's see. One page of so, just say, just to plan ahead. I think that's the thing is planning ahead. So just, you know, if you're in the moment and you're busy sort of doing your life, you get your promotion time, you look back, and there's probably so many missed opportunities. Sort of planning ahead, doing it as you go along. Like we said before, there's no method to have 7 journal articles, and you can't have 10 posters and 3 workshops and 1 book chapter. That's not true. So do those things that you can do that are sort of relevant and appropriate, and that sort of makes your packet of who you are as a clinician educator.
The other thing to be aware of is there are, when the promotions come in, I'd ask somebody to comment on this more in detail. The majorly are the same, but the expectations for what counts as excellent as a professor is different than what counts for excellent as an associate. So to be a professor, you have to sort of meet those and have a national reputation. So it becomes important to think about. It's hard to be a professor and not be involved in professional society, not be making presentations at the national meetings about your work, those sorts of things. So, thinking about setting yourself in that pathway if you want to get the full professor is important.
We often see a lot of professors haven't started yet working towards their kind of more regional, like everything that they do is local, and I encourage going up in the next 3 or 4 years. I was like, yeah, at least for us, it's a fantastic way of getting kind of that regional and national representation. So you need 70 corporate interest groups. So even though you may not have a need, if you have an interest in a subdomain, those are great ways to get connected, workshops together, posters, and some people are interested along into that. But it's a great way of starting to build up not only portfolio as well as that communication and everything.
There's different things that count. So presenting at a workshop, if you do if you do one abstract probably won't count, but if you're kind of steadily getting abstracts in, invitations to speak at other places. One of the things I would think about, if you have a colleague that you work closely with at another institution, volunteer to do a talk there at Grand Rounds, and go, and then you're a visiting professor, and so have those sorts of opportunities. Serving on committees, so the opportunity to serve on a committee or task force comes along. That's another sign of national reputation. For things that actually have national reach. So again, professional societies are usually the way that happens. do letters from people at other institutions around the country carry much weight, or is that should GIM Grand?
Well, that's another thing they look at for national reputation is somebody who writes a letter and says, you know, here he is a national thought leader and the care of adults with Down syndrome. That is evidence of that. Or you know, just somebody who just says, I know Brad. I worked with him. His presentations on these issues at national meetings. His work is viewed favorably by people around the country. And those kinds of
Remember, that national reputation isn't quite that bar that's quite as high as an associate chief.
So for associate professor, just participating regionally in SJM is probably enough to get over the bar. It definitely helps to get the national stuff in, but it's,
you have to have external letters of recommendation. But you don't have to say that is you got it.
Every institution is different, so we know how to structure it.
So when you go up, and maybe even for your course, but kid, Andre, you have to go to her and to her in-house office. But yeah, so she has on sort of see examples of portfolios. But it helps to sort of see how other people structure their narrative, how they put in their matrices. It's very helpful. Because it's it's nice to see like the different things that people put under there. That was excellent in scholarship application. Good. So it helps you to
And one thing that I thought was really cool, writing your portfolio to the from the matrix and different things, and then afterwards you would go through and check. I'll say, here's where my excellence is, here's how I'm doing that.
And you know, and then people say, oh, look, you've written expanded this. This is a curriculum. They can very obvious, but yeah, but definitely look at the work you do, and think it sort of outside the box and brag, right? You do a lot of really good work. Come down, call it out. I put a lot of time and effort into this, and it meant something. All right, wrap it up a little bit.
Oh, I turned it off. Oh, I turned it off so it wouldn't.
Okay. Okay, there we go. All right. So thank you guys. That was excellent. Excellent conversation. So, all right. Actually, maybe I'll let Greg talk. Can we go back?
I know, but that's it.
I get it.
Yeah, just real quick through these next few slides, giving sort of subcategories of each example. So under discovery, you've got the peer-reviewed publications, which we're all aware of, but again, doesn't require a certain number. But short of that involves things like presenting posters and having accepted abstracts at national meetings would count as well. And then much of what we talked about over in our group has to do with application and integration. So this can be QI projects. It can be measuring cost efficiency, patient safety issues within either clinic or hospital settings, leading projects that do the same. Can also include sort of clinical scholarship around patient safety and QI issues, developing clinical guidelines or practice guidelines for your clinic, ethic orders, et cetera, publication of review articles, writing chapters for books and so forth. So you can see within the examples on the right, sort of probably a lot of the things you're doing, but may not know that you're doing in a way that actually counts for non-traditional scholarship.
We can send you the slides. I mean, you can take a picture if you want, but we can send you the slides.
And these are literally taken, the examples aren't, but the matrix on the left is what you are having to import into your dossier later. And then within education, curricular development should go without saying, but you're probably doing quite a bit of that and developing courses, some of the work with the ICC, those sorts of things. Education through the School of Medicine, so, stuff which you're giving lectures, obviously, over at the school, those sorts of things. Syllabi that you're developing. And again, not all these things have to be you as the lead on them. If you're taking part of them, it counts, but also B, it may be that you are then the leader in a year or two or developing curricula and syllabi with your leads. Innovative teaching methods, tracking some of the things you're doing. That can include things like websites on computer and workshops that you're leading, and it doesn't have to all be national workshops, those sorts of things, and then traditional grants as well.
So before we go to the debrief, how many of you are sure that you will have 3 external letters by the time that you go for promotion? But yeah, I know that some people do. So a way to get your colleagues that are not in the institution to write letters for you is maybe engaging in some of the national committees, through some of the societies, and because those will count as part of one, you're going to get products of scholarship that come from that, but also you're going to have the network of people that will write the letters. So I'm not trying, again, this is not an SGIM advertisement, but how many of you are SGIM members? Really? I'm missing a lot of hands here. Anyways, but the point is, no matter what society you're a member, if you're a member of ACP, Society of Hospital Medicine, Society of General Internal Medicine, some of the medical education societies, maybe try to volunteer to one of their committees. Usually it's just one call a month and doesn't add a lot of extra work, but it will give you that network of people that will be writing your letters when you need your external letters. So you're not struggling. The 6 months before you need to submit your package, I was like, oh my God, what are going to be my external letters? Because I find that a lot of people have, I know that this is not part of the scholarship, but I thought, since I said I wanted to give you some anxiety before we remove it, this should be some kind of provoking. Volunteer somewhere so you can get those things done. So.
No, just to piggyback out of that, I had an external letter writer who I never physically met, but was involved with numerous conversations over the course of a few years related to a project we were doing. So it was not a sort of a cold call. It was something that happened sort of organically, but at the same time, it wasn't somebody where I was meeting him at a national meeting for 4 straight years. Okay, so this is sort of open forum, right? But we don't really have a point person on either side. So do people want to just broadly out in the open speak about sort of either points that came up that were salient or new to you, or take-home points for you based on your small groups?
If you speak, use your microphone on your table so people, if anyone's zooming in, they can hear you. Anyone, how about the application group? What are some examples or things that you guys came up with?
Rob, I'm going to call on you if no one else talks.
Okay, so we talked about a few different examples. I think a lot of people tried to wrap their heads around how do you quantify QI projects that you might have worked on, and how do you kind of document the results of that. And it's sort of, those projects tend to be moving targets, and it takes some iterations, but we talked about those. We also talked some about really more than anything, coming up with a system for keeping track of anything that you do, and then figuring out after the fact whether it applies. Looking at some examples from other people that have gone through the process to help you then put your head around how to document that. I don't think there were any other perfect examples.
So one, I'm going to add, so it's important to not only, if you don't write it in your portfolio, it has happened that I'm sitting in the promotions committee and I know the person that is coming and the matrix does not look like, and I know they did a lot more than what's written on the matrix. But the promotions committee cannot go by, oh, I know this person, I know they're doing this. So unless you actually take the time to identify those areas that are actually count as scholarship, nobody can do it for you because it's like against the rules. So even if I know you and I know you're doing a great job and I know that you did this QI that led to an order set and led to changes, which patients go on telemetry, I don't know, something. If you don't put it there, we cannot use it. So make sure that, as you said, that you keep track, but also advocate for yourself because before the promotion, you're going to have a lot of colleagues and peers that will be advocating for you, but after your package is there in the promotions committee, like people can vote in favor and try to make the case and explain what is written, but nobody can discuss things that are not written in your portfolio.
One thing I will say, in PRISM, there's a link to the matrices. And so as you're putting your things in PRISM every year, you can start to accumulate sort of your matrix. Every year I think about it and then I don't do it. But you should do it. Don't do what I do. You should do it. Because then at the end of 5 years, right, you've actually got the stuff there, as opposed to having to go back and think about it and look at what's on your CV and try and remember what you did. You can actually keep your sort of running matrices, and they do actually make it fairly easy for you in PRISM.
Yeah, so I think for the sake of time, we'll skip the rest of this slide.
So before we go to the take-home points, what I wanted to do is give you some sheets. Based on what you learned, what you heard, see if you can come up with like 3 goals in order to get your promotion on track. Write them here. Write your title. You're going to send a letter to yourself. I mean, we're going to send it. And in 1 year and see if you achieve them or not. We're not going to read what it is because you're going to write your objectives, put them in an envelope, seal it, and put your address in the envelope. All we're going to do is message you. So we don't get to see what you wrote, but you'll get to see in a year and say, oh, man, I really laughed. I didn't do this. Or I'm like, I rocked it. It didn't happen. So if you can pass this around while we do this so you can. Oh, yeah, that's pretty much it. So go back. So while you're going around with the sheet,
No, do you want to talk about the full professor?
So some of the quick take-home points is be familiar with the matrix and start filling it as soon as you can. Be aware that there's a lot of non-traditional scholarship. Just find a mentor if you don't have one. Know and use your resources. Collaborate, ask for help, and the low-hanging fruit is like you're already doing all the stuff. Make it count.
No, if you want to. Yeah, you definitely
Don't be afraid. Dr. Mo, you need a pen.
If you have somebody.
Do you have one pen?
Thank you.
goal is start my matrix, whatever. Anybody else needs a pen? Pen? Anybody? Pen? Pen?
Michelle, it just makes it become easier to
Is our home address?
plug in stuff now. But when I did my midterm, it was like in double secret PDF mode that you had to like unlock.
They updated the copy.
Yeah,
It's in a Word document.
that helps.
Because people would like, use the Word document, but even the Word document was not, didn't let people copy and paste things in, and when they did, they wouldn't let you adjust the form. So now they fixed it, they fixed it like at the end of last year. Or not this year, because I was reviewing people's like, listen, I'm like, dude, change the format. I can't, oh my God, like figure out how to remove buttons. It's just a Word document. I was like, oh, never mind.